You know, there's a piece of technology that's, well, it's pretty much everywhere, but you've probably never actually seen it. It's this total powerhouse hiding right there in plain sight. I'm talking about the Linux operating system. So today, we're going to pull back that curtain. We'll look at what it is, how it works, and really why it's the secret foundation of, like, our entire digital world. All right, let's jump right in.
Okay, so why should you even care about Linux, right? Especially if you're perfectly happy on Windows or a Mac. Well, here's the thing. Whether you realize it or not, you're already a Linux user. Yep, every single day. All right, let me ask you a question, a little puzzle. What do your phone, the cloud, and the world's absolute fastest supercomputers all have in common? Think about it for a sec. You guessed it. They all run on Linux. Seriously, if you've got an Android phone in your pocket, boom, that's Linux. When you're browsing pretty much any major website, the server that's sending you that page, chances are, that's running Linux too. It's this quiet, super powerful backbone of the entire modern internet. So yeah, you've literally been using it all day and probably had no idea. Okay, so we've established it's everywhere. But what exactly is Linux? Let's grade it down. So the story starts back in 1991 with this student named Linus Torvalds. He had this idea. He wanted to create a totally free version of a really powerful, heavy-duty operating system called Unix. But the way he built it, the philosophy he baked into its very core, well, that was a total game changer. And that philosophy is something called open source. Now think about Windows or Mac OS for a second. Their code, their secret sauce, it's locked away in a vault by a giant corporation, right? Open source is the polar opposite. It means the entire blueprint for Linux is just out there. It's free for anyone to look at, to use, and even to change and improve. And this is so important. It's not just some technical detail. It's maybe the most important thing to get about Linux. It's not built by one company. It's built by this massive global community of developers. All right, so how does it all work? How does this whole open source thing actually function? Let's take a look under the hood and break down its architecture. I promise we'll keep it simple. Okay, so everything has to start at the very bottom, with the physical hardware. We're talking about the actual nuts and bolts, your computer's processor, the RAM, the hard drive, all the metal and silicon bits. Now, sitting right on top of that hardware is the most critical piece of the puzzle, the kernel. The best way to think about the kernel is like the engine in a car. It's the absolute core of the operating system. It does all the heavy lifting, managing all the hardware resources. But here's the thing, you never really interact with it directly. So if you can't touch the engine, how do you make the car go? Well, that's where the shell comes in. Sticking with our car analogy, if the kernel is the engine, then the shell is your dashboard, your steering wheel, your gas pedal. It's how you give commands to that powerful engine and tell it what you want it to do. And then, finally, sitting on top of all of that, you've got your applications. This is the stuff you actually see and click on. Your web browser, Spotify, your games. All the programs that you use day to day. And that's basically it. That's the stack. You've got the hardware at the very bottom, the powerful kernel managing everything, the shell that lets you talk to the kernel, and then your apps running right on top. It's actually a super logical and really elegant design when you think about it. But this setup isn't just clever for the sake of being clever. This architecture is exactly what gives Linux all of its biggest advantages. It's the whole reason why it's the absolute, undisputed king when it comes to servers and supercomputers. Yeah, this design leads to some really incredible features. I mean, we've already talked about it being open source and free, but it's also built from the ground up to be multi-user and multitasking. What does that mean? It means it can handle like thousands of different tasks from tons of different users all at the same time, which you can imagine is absolutely crucial for a web server. Plus, it's famously secure and stable, and it's incredibly portable. You can run it on a tiny little computer the size of a credit card, or on the biggest supercomputer in the world. And look, those features, they lead directly to some key advantages. So it's super stable and has this really strict way of handling permissions. What does that get you? High security. The fact that it's open source, that means it's endlessly customizable, and you've got this giant global community ready to help you out. And that really efficient design we talked about, well, that translates directly into amazing performance. Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. See, when you decide you want to try Linux, you don't just go and download one thing called Linux. Nope, you actually get to enter this whole world of choices. You got to remember, Linux itself is technically just the kernel. It's just that engine. So what happens is different groups and big companies take that kernel, they package it up with a shell and a bunch of applications, and they create their own complete operating systems. And these different packages, these flavors, are called distributions, or what everyone calls distros for short. And there are literally hundreds of these distros out there, and each one is kind of tailored for a specific job. So for instance, you want something that's super easy to use on your laptop, you'd probably check out Ubuntu. You're a developer who needs all the latest cutting-edge stuff? Fedora's your bet. You're running a mission-critical server that absolutely cannot fail? Then you're probably looking at something like Debian. Seriously, there's a flavor of Linux for just about any person or any job you can imagine.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, you start to see that Linux isn't just another operating system. It's this powerful, secure, community-built foundation that's holding up a huge chunk of our modern world. It's really a testament to what can happen when people collaborate, and it's running on everything from your phone to the servers that power the cloud.
And that leaves us with a really big, kind of fascinating question to think about. In a world that is completely built on software, what does it actually mean when the very foundation of so much of it is free and open for anyone, everyone, to build upon? That's the core idea right there, and it's what keeps Linux right at the heart of so much innovation. Thanks for digging into all this with us.